Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Make It Epic Wedding Podcast. You're here with Tim and Matt, and man, are we excited for this one. Matt, how are you, mate? It's been a while.
G'day, mate. How are you? I feel like we say it's always been a while because every single time we go to record one of these, something happens. But we're here. We're back. We're recording again for another week. Man, I'm super excited for today's episode. Hopefully it brings some value to you guys because I feel like this is such a big topic. Everybody wants to talk about, I guess, today's topic. I feel like every time I get an inquiry, people are like, we don't want to feel awkward on the day. So, we're talking about how to say goodbye to awkward moments.
You spilled the beans. I spilled the beans.
I got excited. I'm sorry.
It's probably like the one most common thing that comes up in like couple meetings with myself. And 100%. Like probably for you as well. Like, how do we not be awkward on camera? Like we're camera shy. Like we're not camera people. And it's like, well,
there's no such thing as not camera people or camera people. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
Just putting it out there before we've even started.
Mr. Zuckerberg's watching. You're on camera 24/7, ladies and gentlemen. Get used to it.
That's pretty much how it is today. No, but like realistically, like at the end of the day, no one's perfect. I don't expect anybody to rock up and be like absolutely killing it from the second we get there. Sure, if it's something you do on a daily basis, you paid for it or something, you're going to have a little bit more confidence. But I would say everybody's a little bit apprehensive when it comes to their photos being taken, their videos, and not even necessarily like today. I feel like we're not just talking about photo and video. We're talking like big picture, whole day scenario of like how to get rid of 100%. Some of those like awkward vibes how to make your day better in general, which I feel like that's what we are aiming for with this podcast, no matter what.
Yeah. Because if I take it back a step and think about my own wedding, like 8 years ago, like I was a nervous wreck, man. Like back then.
It's because you got married when you were 21, mate, but that's okay.
True. But like having a camera, like the thought of just like having cameras in my face for my wedding day, like it just didn't necessarily like appeal to me. Like, yes, I was young. No. I wasn't in the industry at the time. Like I was a creative, but like it just like it was a little bit like nerve-wracking that like someone would be taking photos of me like during like one of the best days of my life, which I wanted the photos, but like in a way, like in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I hope I don't look like an idiot on camera. Like I want these photos to be amazing, but like I'm still a bit nervous about them.
Yeah. And I think that's because like typically like there's something that you've never experienced before. So there's not a whole lot of direction. You don't really know which way the day is going to go. You've been planning it for a long time. You're apprehensive about what the day looks like. And all of these emotions together, for some reason, ends up becoming back to the photographer and the videographer. I guess like being able to control those emotions on the day as well. But it's something that's definitely different for sure. I remember like, even though when I got married, like, because we're going back and talking about our own experiences, like I was last year. Like 3 years ago. But even though I was in the industry, I wasn't probably as heavily like, I was doing it, but I wasn't as heavily busy as what I have been in the last couple of years. Probably since I got married, I got a lot busier quickly. And I would say,
well, mate, you're doing like 100 wins a year, so yeah, you're
but I think at the time I was only doing like 40, so But like I think like for me in my experience is like the day was a blur. Yes, it went fast, and I just made sure I threw myself into it wholeheartedly and completely, and tried not to worry about the camera, and tried not to worry about everybody else, and tried to worry more about what I was doing and what I could control.
Yeah, because look, I'll tell you something right now. So like when I got married, like it's actually influenced my process in how I interact and like what I do as like part of an onboarding process like with couples now. Because like when I got married, there was no communication like with the photographer. Like we booked the photographer and then someone just rocked up. And like maybe 8 years ago, that's kind of like that was maybe the industry standard. But like it left a lot to be desired. So now, like when I meet with couples, like I tell them, excuse me,
dying.
So now, like when I meet with So now when I meet with couples, stop laughing. You're making me laugh. So now when I meet with couples, like I have to go through this process and tell them like, look, like when you book me, like you don't just book me and then, we talk about a month before the wedding and then I just like rock up. Like I actually want to get to know you guys. I want to like understand like the things that make you you. And like as part of my onboarding process, like with the questionnaires and like the chats that we do have, like these are all like this is all information that I use like to get to know the couple, and then it influences how I am on the day. Because like, yeah, no one wants to be awkward, but like in saying that, like you want someone you know and trust, like rocking up on your wedding day that you can have fun with, that you can have some banter with, like that you can relate with. Like if you're someone that's
100%.
like super fun, right? Like you want to have a fun wedding day, like it makes sense, right? To find someone that matches like that style that you can relate with, that you can have fun as well. Like imagine, having a super like fun, like upbeat wedding, right? And you got old mate that's rocking up with thongs, a shirt, and grumpy face, hands in his pocket, always on his phone. Like it just doesn't match, right?
It's not, and I would say like, look, everyone must have fun on their wedding day, but I feel like there's different levels to the fun too, right? Like we're not saying just because you don't want to have fun or just because your level of fun is different to somebody else's level of fun. Everyone's levels of fun times is going to be different, right? And it may even be like there's like fun, having a good time, and then there's like wild, and that's kind of like there's two different options.
Yeah, like we throw the terms fun, like wild, like epic, but like it's unique to you, like, and I think that's like the whole point, like we're making here is that your wedding day should be about you. Should be about the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you value. And I know when I'm talking to couples, I'm asking them questions about what are things that's going to make your wedding day perfect. Like regardless of tradition, like regardless of anything, what are some things that you can add into your day or even take out of your day that is going to make it more unique and better for you?
100%. And it's something that it just comes down to like thinking about it and having a real good think about it from day one, so that like you're early on in your process. And I feel like we've spoken a lot about this in the podcast so far over the last 20 something episodes, is that like just have a think about the way that you want your day to look like, right? Really like make sure that you're like, I guess, creating a day that is perfect for you and the way that you want it to go, right? And I feel like there's a lot that can be I guess you have a lot of power in the like early stages of planning by, I guess sliding into kind of like, I guess choosing the right vendors and making sure that your day and the people you have around you are fitting your vibe, right? And so that means maybe meeting up with like your hairdresser, your hairdresser or your makeup artist, right? And having a chat with them prior and being like, are you guys going to have fun with me in the morning when we catch up, and we start doing our hair for the, and you're turning up at 6:30, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, we've just got out of bed. Is it going to be a vibe when you turn up? And I feel like for the bride side of things, that's really important. And maybe for the groom side of things, like who you have around you in the morning before you start the day or before the wedding, starts and all the guests turn up. It's important to have those right people around you from the start of the day. And if you start the day in the right way, it's going to create such a good vibe for the rest of the day. Because I know for me and you, Tim, whenever we turn up and like for the boys, if the drinks are flowing and the music's on, that's probably like we know we're going to have a good time and everyone's chatty and excited. There's just like you can feel the vibe, right? Where if we walk in and it's like, hey, and there's like insert cricket sound, we know
that's when I go back to my car and I get a 6-pack out. I'm like, all right, boys, let's have a drink.
pull out the shot glass and the like little whiskey bottle out of the back pocket or something.
Why are the boys half cut at the ceremony?
That Tim guy.
That guy. But yeah, no, like I completely agree. And like this is like it all ties in together, right? Like planning like a wedding, it's not an easy thing to do. But there are things that you can do which make the day so much easier. Like, and this comes back to timing as well, right? Like having your photographer, videographer, like start at a reasonable time. Like I know for myself, like if we're rocking up like maybe an hour or something before the ceremony starts, like it's super rushed, right? Like imagine, already trying to get ready and then you've got a vendor team that comes in that's trying to like bring the chaos and rush you into doing all these things. And like this is why I know you and I, and it was especially true for the weekend where we came in a bit early, we had a chat with the guys, had a chat with the girls, kind of like just like played it cool, had a joke, bring some banter, you know, just get
Caught
to
up with
know,
some of the
like,
vendors
everyone in
around the
room.
place as well.
Yeah,
it was
like,
good.
We
Yeah.
chilled out for like 45 minutes before we actually started shooting.
Yeah, it was
like,
hanging.
It just brought such like a good vibe, because I remember Luke. Like we've had some meetings like with the groom and the bride, but like just seeing him in person, like he was a little bit shy at the start of the day, right? Like as soon as we rocked up and said hello, like it was a bit shy.
Yeah. And I feel like most grooms are like that. And, you know, some brides are like that too. But, like, I feel like at the end of the day, like, especially for grooms, for some reason, like, we are probably one of the first vendors that actually talk to him. Obviously, for the ladies, you know, there's, like, makeup artists and hairdressers, and florists usually pop in and they have a bit of a chat. And then the florist might go to the boys, but it's like, hey, here's your flowers. And that is, like, skedaddle. You know, so I feel like for us, like, we kind of are the first ones to interact with, like, you know, the groom and the boys side of things. And, like, it definitely is probably daunting, you know, like, because it's like when we turn up, it's like, oh, things are getting real now, you know, and that changes things for them as well.
Yeah,
you know, not 90% of the time the boys are the ones that are stressing out too.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Like, do you have like a certain process, like when you rock up, like in the morning for the ceremony, like to the boys? Like, do you just like rock up, start shooting straight away? Like, what's the typical process for Mad Ashton?
Typically, I just rock up, say hey, have a bit of a chat with them, see where they're up to, see how the night before went. Usually you tell what kind of day the day is going to be like, depending on their answer of what happened the night before. So these boys were like, for instance, because we were talking about it on the weekend, they were like, oh yeah, we had a fair few, and there was a couple of empties laying around this morning. So that was cool. And, you know, I just make sure that we have a bit of a chat, get a bit of banter in there early, you know, see how they're feeling, make sure they're going to actually turn up, all that goodness, you know, have a bit of a joke with it. And then I try not to shove the camera in their face straight away, and I'm like always suggesting to do like the little things first. So whether it's like details, whether it's like stuff of them hanging out, having a drink, whatever that looks like that is going to be perfect for them, just to kind of like ease into it, because it is daunting having my camera, your camera, like shoved into their face. Not that we ever shove it in their face, but that's probably what it feels like if you've never had a camera in your face before, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. And I probably urge like most vendors, right? Like to actually just leave the camera in the car or leave it in your bag for the first 15 minutes and just go in and have a chat, say good day, say hello, get to know mum and dad, get to know the parents, like of the bride and groom, and just actually just, you know, assess the room. Just make sure people like aware of your your presence, but also like aware of your role as well. Like you're not just rocking up there to just stand by the side and take a photo or like take videos. And especially with these guys using like these massive cameras now with monitors and like look, I'm pretty minimal like in my approach, but like it can be a bit daunting and it can be a little bit in your face. So yeah, I love that, man. And it's pretty much the same for me.
I feel like even something that I've been like trying to do more lately is like introducing myself to everybody, like, and trying to make a little bit more of a conscious effort to like say hi, and you know, for the guys, for instance, like shake their hand, say hey, I'm Matt, introduce, be like, hey, I'm probably not going to remember your name, but I'm Matt, how you doing? You know, because like you
there's
just
about
so
a 1 in 3% chance that
yeah,
I will...
literally. But you know, I feel like that makes a difference because they're like, oh, he's keen to have a chat, oh, he's keen to have a party, he's keen to have a drink with us later, whatever that is. You know, I feel like that really makes a difference as well. You know,
love it.
like I'm a big fan of just making sure that everybody's feeling comfortable, and maybe just setting a bit of like an expectation as to what is happening pre-ceremony. And it's very simple. Keep it easy.
I always like, even though like I know the run sheet like in the back of my mind, like I'll always just kind of like go through like with the groom as well, just kind of like reiterate, and like he might know it as well, or he might.
It's the first time he's actually heard it.
Yeah,
what
probably.
time's the ceremony today?
But how good is when like the bride and groom are actually like in the same location as well. Man, I've been doing a lot of those weddings lately, and I just love it because be like, all right, well, you guys just chill. Like I'll head across to the girls for a bit. Like, I'll come back. You guys can get dressed, and we can head back over. Like, just makes it so much easier.
It does. It's very, very easy.
But yeah, I suppose that was a kind of a long-winded way of what we're talking about. But that point was really about, you know, choosing vendors that align with your vision and your values, right? Like, makes sense, right? Like we've harped on this about so many times.
I feel like we're a broken record with it a little bit.
Oh, we weren't until you said that. But
Well,
well, what about staying? What about staying present in the moment, Matt?
mate, I feel like this is something that, especially recently, like I've had a couple of weddings where, like, let's just start with prep. Like, you're a bit frazzled, you're a bit like all over the place, and you're not really like focused on what is happening at that point in time. Like, I feel like staying present in the moment is super important, not only for, like getting photos and getting videos and all that sort of stuff, but it's just like enjoying it. Just like bringing like remembering what is happening in that moment and just enjoying it.
What's the purpose of you getting married in the first place, all right? Why go through all this effort to plan, like, in meticulous detail this wedding day? Like, what's the purpose of doing it if you're gonna not gonna have a good time and enjoy yourself, right?
Yeah, and like I feel like if you are so stressed still at that point in time of like the morning of the wedding, like there's literally nothing you can do by then. You're like, oh my goodness, like you can't fix the run sheet, you can't like fix the table layouts, you can't, all of the stuff that you've been planning for months and months and months is like, literally getting to like the like nail in the coffin kind of scenario. And there's not a lot
you should have gone back and listened to that podcast that we did about 3 months before the wedding.
Yeah.
Where you should be.
So I always say, like, in my final meeting with couples, like, and I feel like this is something that like a lot of people, like a lot of other vendors could use as well, is like once it gets realistically to like a certain point, and that you're like as a vendor or as a couple, you would know when you're getting to that point, is like, you've kind of got your run sheet down pat. There's not a whole lot more you can do towards the day. You literally need to scrunch up that piece of paper that's in your mind of the run sheet and throw it in the bin and let your vendors who you have booked, because you've obviously already spoken to them, point above of them aligning with your vision and the vibe of the day. They're going to know where they've got to be and what they've got to do. So you got to trust those vendors you've already picked, scrunch up that piece of paper that's in your head with a like run sheet on it, and like throw it in the mental bin and just forget it and just enjoy it. Because I feel like if you're doing that, you can stay present a whole lot more. You're not worrying about what's already happened, and you're not worrying about what's happening in the coming minutes, hours, seconds, whatever it is.
And we've seen like the effects of a bride or a couple like actually worrying about the run sheet and trying to follow it to an absolute T, that it just completely ruins their attitude. It like creates a mood, and there's no coming back from it. There really isn't.
There's only so many dad jokes we can throw in there that are that really aren't going to work. But I feel like,
mate, your dad jokes, I'm sorry. Oh, they're getting bad, man.
Well, I wasn't even a dad when I started using them, so
yeah. But look, there was actually a point that you made earlier, and like we're all about like making sure that when you plan your wedding, like you're planning it, to suit like your vision. You're planning it to suit like what you want. But also when it comes to the day, like throw it out and get rid of it, because you shouldn't be thinking about it. There's things that happen on the day that are completely out of your control, and if that's going to affect you in any way, like negatively, like it's not worth it. Like, and that is why you choose like vendors and have faith in your vendors that they can adjust. Like I know, like for us, man, like I try and change like things that aren't running on the schedule like pretty much every wedding, because like if the light's good at this time and like not at that time, I'll try and adjust that 100%. But like
definitely
imagine, but because I know that suits the couple, like that's a value like to the couple.
Yeah, we're finding out what their priority is, right? Like, and on the weekend, the couple were like, we definitely want to get sunset photos. And I would say 99% of couples want sunset photos. And there's always something that happens on a wedding day that we are adjusting that time slot, right? I feel like that's a real difference that you can make as a vendor, whether you're
7:50 to 8 p.m. sunset.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
I'm sorry, doesn't work like that. But
no,
right.
But I feel like if you're a vendor and you're there on the day and you know that something is like going to work better for the couple, I feel like I don't know, like you have a right as a experienced member of the day, like of a vendor of the day, that you have the right to say something and to see if it is going to suit them better, because at the end of the day, they like, even though we want you all to stay present, it's very hard to stay present because everyone wants a piece of you, like everyone wants to talk to you, everyone wants this, everyone wants that. And if we're saying to you as a couple to scrunch up the piece of paper mentally of your run sheet and throw it in the bin, you have to trust the people you've got. Therefore, I feel like because we are trusted, we should be able to like easily go up to the couple and say, hey, I'm just looking at the run sheet and this is what we had planned and we're like a little bit behind or a little bit in front, or how do you think about doing this, because I think it'd be really awesome because I've just seen it and it's popped into my mind, whatever that is. I feel like we have the right to be able to say that to our couples, and if we do that, we're only doing them a better service.
Well,
and
that's
then
like
also,
that's what I mean. Like that's serving your couples. Like,
Yeah,
that's serving them
100%.
to the best of your ability.
Yeah, and we're going to get the best content out of it. And then if they trust you and they're like following your vision, like you're going to get good content out of it. You're going to make sure they have the best day. You know, you're going to really make sure that that day is going to be as amazing as possible, which means it's going to get rid of some of those awkward vibes purely from a like trust like based system.
Yeah, 100%. And this is all about, you know, like bringing to light like these moments to make you feel like more at ease in front of the camera, right? And this is why like we build like this reputation, we build this relationship with each of our couples. Like, and even like before the day, man, like you were photographer, I was videographer. You know, we had a chat, we had a game plan, we had a meeting with the couple each, like, and we just knew like what the couple was like, and you know, like what are some things that we can really like try and do to really like lift this game. Like, how can we
excited.
just hit the mic?
Just smash the microphone in excitement
Like,
if you are not watching at home.
What are some of the things that like we can do to really like bring like these guys and bring this wedding to another level and service our couples like even more than we already are, than just like rocking up and taking their photos and videos, you know? And like for us, like it just worked, right? These guys, I'm still on a bit of a high from it, man. Like it was such a good wedding. Like these guys absolutely killed it. And like then they were probably not the most outgoing, and they were pretty open and honest with us, you know, when they booked us, that, you know, they feel a bit awkward like in front of the camera. But man, like I feel like we did such a good job at making them feel at ease, like, and the whole bridal party and the wedding, like we got so many compliments. And even the groom at the end of the night was like, holy smokes, guys. Like, I feel like you guys are leaving, like, as mates. Like, this has been such a fun day. And,
Yeah,
like...
we probably should have recorded that as a little testimony.
yeah, can you say that again? But, like, and we even, like, I'm sorry, like, Vanessa from Wedding Event, like, did an amazing job, like, with the run sheet. But, man, we hacked that. We absolutely hacked that run sheet on the day.
Yeah, and it wasn't in like a bad sense, because the thing is that like it actually ran too well. Like everything was like we were ahead of time. So because we were ahead of time, we were like, well, let's take a little bit more time here and let's just change it up a little bit. And I feel like because of that, they really lent on us and they really trusted us, and we built that really good rapport like from the second we got there. And it makes such a difference. Like, yeah, so I would say definitely if you're out there and you're wanting to stay present in the day, like definitely lean on your vendors, trust what they have to say. And if you're a vendor out there, help your couples stay present by encouraging them to do things that you know
that they want.
Should be saying. And that, that they want as well. Like there's definitely like, don't be scared to say something. Don't be scared to like give you 2 cents, because at the end of the day, they'll probably thank you for it.
Yeah. So look, as a bit of a hot tip, right? Like as part of my like onboarding like questionnaire, I ask couples as part of like their portrait session, so that time between like the ceremony and the reception, you know, like what appeals to you most? Like what is of most value to you? Like do you want to spend as much time as possible getting the most like amazing photos and videos? Like, or like, are you still wanting to get like really nice and the most amazing photos and videos, but you're still mindful of the time? Or do you just want to get them over and done with and get back to the party so you can have some canapes with your family and friends? And I know these guys, like, they still wanted like good photos and videos, right? But they actually wanted to enjoy that time. And after the ceremony, we just gave them a bunch of like time. Like we said, yep, like half an hour, just enjoy some time, have a drink, you know. Like they cut their cake early, which is pretty cool. And they had like enjoyed canapes with family and friends for like 45 minutes. It was great.
Yeah, I'm a fan of cutting the cake early. I've been really against it lately, but I don't know. I've done it a couple, like maybe the last 2 or 3 weddings, they've cut it in like straight after the ceremony in canapé hour, kind of like tick that box. And I don't know. I like it, and I don't know why.
That and the champagne tower. I've had the champagne tower like at like pretty much directly after the ceremony, which has been pretty cool.
I feel like that works because it's straight into like first drinks and stuff. But yeah, the cake cutting straight away, I don't know. I'm a fan. I like it. Yeah, a bit different. Anyway, I feel like...
it's I suppose, look, getting to the point, like, it's understanding what your couples want and not just what you want. Like as a vendor, you're there to serve your couples, and the better you serve the couples, the better like you're serving yourself, your business, right? So like I know I'm there like to make sure that I can provide the best experience for my couples, and like in return, like I create like raving fans, right? Like that's what we've tried to do. Like we're trying to create like a business that provides value.
Definitely. And I feel like if we are providing value, you know, like it's only going to improve the experience on the day, and it's going to help you stay in the moment. Like, you know, because you do trust us, you do, you know, trust your vendors, and you do value what they have to say with the experience that they have. Because I know that like 99% of couples that come to me are like, we've never done this before, and we're low key freaking out. So, you know, lean on us. We are here to help. And by
Stress
doing
less.
that,
It's all
you're only
and if we
going to
can't
stay
help,
more
we
present.
can recommend. We can recommend.
If we can't help, we'll make up some crap to help anyway. You know, like wing it. It's fine.
Yeah, check out our recommender list of planners.
Yeah, 100%. Or listen.
We
to
should
last
really,
week's
we should
episode
really
or
get an
week before.
affiliate code for these guys, right?
Yeah, I feel like take props. All right. I feel like another big one that like definitely helps bring like the good vibes and helps get rid of the awkward moments on the day is having the right people around you. And I'm not talking, obviously we just spoke a lot about vendors and a lot about like so far, but now we're talking like the right people, meaning bridal party, meaning family members that are going to be there in the morning of, you know, I touched on it earlier with like the grooms, like, you know, for the groom and when he's getting ready, yes, he'll have a few groomsmen there, but there's also more people that are in that inner circle. I'm doing inverted commas, but you can't probably see it. But, you know, in that inner circle, I feel like that's really important. So yeah, having like, pick the right bridal party that is going to suit your vibes and, you know, bring the joy and bring the good value to your day because you're spending a heck of a lot of time with them. And typically that's where the party starts.
100%. No negative Nancy's in there whatsoever.
Yeah. Even if it's
it'll bring you down. If you need a little bit of confidence to make that decision, you go for it, girlfriend.
Yeah, I am a big fan of making sure that those people around you are on the same level as you. And I've even been to like, there's plenty of weddings where I've been to like I would say bridesmaids, groomsmen, whoever it is, are like probably even a step above the bride and groom, which also I feel like is almost better if it's the vibe that you are going for as the bride and groom.
Yeah.
I just feel like, you know,
Okay.
during portraits, they like get straight into it. They're like, you know, no bull crap. They're, you know, they're like, if I ask them to do something, they just like, they go ham, they go a little bit more wild. And I feel like creating those wild vibes and those good fun times really like helps. Like when we get into the portrait session, the couple are already like pumped and ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, a bottle of champagne in the back pocket always helps. Throw that bad
definitely.
boy around.
A six pack, whatever else you have in the back pocket, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, what about, you know, like, yes, like we want to bring the vibe, like, and as a vendor, like we want to make sure that, you know, we can make this, you know, like as fun as possible, right? Like we want to make sure it's not awkward. We want to make sure that you're having a good time. We want to make sure that we're having a good time. And that's why we, you know, like we're true to ourselves. Like you and I, like individually, like we like to have a bit of banter, but collectively, holy smokes, man, like it is like to a next level. Hey,
Yeah.
and like people feed off it. It's pretty good.
Maybe we should post that video that like one of the girls from the Wedding Event Creators the other day, she got a BTS of us and like at sunset, and me and you were sitting there filming, and I turned around and saw her and just started twerking. That was pretty funny. We might post that.
And I'm doing like the air traffic controller.
Yeah. I feel like though, like because of that,
yeah,
like
okay,
you know,
nice.
we can be a little bit, you know, bantering towards each other, and I feel like that also brings a bit of like I guess the couple get a little bit more comfortable. But like it's not
100%.
just us that need to bring the vibe, and I feel like that. You know, like there's only so much that like as vendors that we can do to create the vibe and to bring the vibe. Like you as a couple need to work out what the vibe is. And we've said this from day one in this podcast. And I know that if you've listened to a lot of episodes, you would know that. But I feel like if you don't want to have awkward moments on the day, you really need to work out what your vibe is.
Yeah, like, and to be honest, it's just about being true to yourself. Like, it's just, you know, not trying to be someone you're not. Like, you know, like if you don't like want to get super wild at a wedding, then that's fine. Like we pick up on that, and like we make it like fun for you, but we make it personal. Like, and that's the whole point. So like as a vendor, like if you're rocking up and you just like don't know like who your couple is, like, you know, what are the things that they value? What's their personalities like? What are the little like inside secrets? What are the ins and outs that like make them them? Like, it's going to be really hard for you to connect like with that and to actually like bring a comfortable environment for them. And this is why we harp on it so much, because it's so important that as a vendor, like, you know, like who you're talking to, you know, like what you're trying to create. Like, and it's about creating a vibe, but it's influencing moments where your couples can feel as comfortable as possible in front of you. And that is the whole point of it. Like, that is the whole point. Like, and, you know, like if you're lucky enough to have like a good like relationship with your photographer, with your videographer, or like on that kind of in that moment, like then you can really like feed off that and like bring like that moment to a different level just to make like your couple feel like super comfortable, right? Like, and as we said, like this weekend pass was, it was such a good wedding. Like it was absolutely phenomenal. And we've had a lot of weddings together, even though we joke like, I haven't seen you in a while, man. But I feel like we've got at least one wedding a week together, which is pretty cool. Because
yeah, definitely.
We tend to create some absolute magic. Like, if I don't say so myself.
Give yourself a pat on the back there.
Yeah, there we go. Best videographer in the world. But yeah, like a couple on the weekend, like they weren't the most, you know, how do I say it? Like comfortable, like in front of the camera at first. But man, did they get into it. Like, honestly,
by the end of it,
they rocked it.
Yeah. And I feel like, even though, like, and like we harped on before a little bit, like, it's not always about getting wild. And I guess, like Tim was just reiterating that, like, yes, we want to have fun, but every single level of fun is different. And there's either, like, it's not always wild. And for me, wild is not necessarily crazy, sporadic, mental, whatever. Wild is just like a wildly fun time, and that's, you know, unique to everybody, and everybody's different. I would say I've never not been to a wedding and had a wild time, meaning it's always been amazing. It's always been just what the couple wanted, and we've been able to create these moments that are perfect for that couple. And I feel like that's pretty important to like just mention quickly, backtracking a little bit there. Yeah. But yeah, look, and when it comes to the weekend,
I've been to some unwild weddings before.
Yeah, and it's not even unwild.
I'll be completely honest.
I feel like we've painted this picture like we're psycho demons that are like just going wild at parties every single weekend, and it's definitely not the case at all. Like that's what I guess, like, just, you know, backtracking a little bit. It definitely is something that is like, you know, there's still romantic moments, there's still quiet moments, there's still moments that are true to you, and I feel like the whole time it should be true to you. But sometimes we elevate it and we make sure we're having a really good time, which if that means going out champagne, spraying it all over each other, whether that means throwing confetti in the air, whether that means running down a road, whatever that means for you, that is extra fun. Like, we're there for it, and we're trying to match you, or if not be a little bit higher than you in your like level of goodness. And if you're doing these things, and if we're doing these things with you, those awkward moments aren't there. And I feel like the reason why they're not there is because they're natural. They're something that you really want to do.
You've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, those awkward moments are not there because it is natural. Right, it's raw, it's you. All right, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this about you. Although we're influencing moments, like we're baiting moments, but it's all about, you know, doing things that bring out who you really are. And like, yeah, we talk about like these wild moments, but like for me, like as well, like these wild moments are, you know, that time like towards like the end of portraits or even sunset, where we just tell the couple, like, just have 10-15 minutes, like however long you want, like just to be by yourself and just like embrace like this day, like decompress and like just really feel like what this day has been about, because it is the only time during like this whole day with a little bit of light left that you can actually spend some time together. You know, like when we'd be 50, 100, 200 meters back behind a tree creeping around, like shooting them. No, it's not that creepy. But like we much worse. But like we'd actually give you that time, and like for me, like that's amazing. Like that's so much fun. Like,
Yeah.
that is so much fun. And like, no, typically Matt and I will be absolutely frothing over this, and we'd be making some like noises going, oh man, this is so hectic.
Yeah. And typically, like, you know, like when we're doing these things, like we're doing it because we want you to do what you do. And like, I know that sounds absolutely insane to say, like, but ultimately, like, all these things that we're doing throughout the day, like, we are not trying to do it because Matt Ashton said it or because Tim Blackett said it. It's not because we want you to do it. It's because we're trying to instill moments in you that you can kind of recreate in your own personal way that is personal to the two of you. And I feel like, you know, like we can have the best time ever. And I feel like most of the wild goodness happens probably with the bridal party because they're not there to be romantic with you guys because it'd be really awkward. You know, they're probably,
And that's why we start with them.
we start with them, we get them out of the way, and then we say, okay, leave us alone, please, and thank you.
Bye-bye.
And then we kind of like, we still have a good time, but, you know, like it's definitely pared back and it's definitely suited to what it should be for you guys. And at the end of the day, that is you two being married, that is showing your relationship off, and that is making sure that we are, you know, really capturing who you are as a couple. And like, if we can do that and we throw in some good vibes and some fun and, you know, like, I feel like all of these things together create these moments which say goodbye to the awkward moments.
100%. And look, like, as a video, I suppose, like, as a videographer, like, in a video perspective, like, it's really easy to see when things are awkward, like, on video. Like,
Yeah.
and probably on photos as well, but like to more of an extent on video. And, you know, this is probably why, like, photographers out there, like your videographer, like, puts so much emphasis on movement and fluid motion. You know, like, it gives us a lot more flexibility in post when we create this, because we don't want to deliver a stiff, you know, like, moving frame of video. We don't want to do that. But all right, man, let's talk about the last point, right? And it's about how to have the best portrait session ever. And I know we've kind of been talking about that already. We've like touched on a couple of things. But what are some things that we can really do to like elevate like the level and make sure that we completely say goodbye to any like awkward vibes? So what are some things that you do for like your own shoots?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of just like, I've said it before, but like having music, some sort of music, whatever it is.
Love it.
It could be, you know, something as simple as like, hey, what vibe are you into at the moment? You know, like what music do you guys really enjoy as a couple? If you're, I would say lately it's
Hot
been like
country.
80%. Yeah, like 80% of people lately have just been like, you do you, like, we don't really mind, we trust you. So, which I kind of like, I don't really mind. So like lately I've just been like, even if it's something as simple as just like throwing on, I don't know, like the top hits on Spotify recently, or, you know, like some chilled music, depending on the part of the day where we're up to. Like, I feel like music can really like push us into the direction that we would want the couple to go into. Like, if we've had a lot of fun earlier, we might put something a little bit more laid back and relaxed on. Or if we're like still like having good vibes and having a bit of a boogie and a bit of a party, and that's what the couple is there for, then, you know, we put in the house or we put in the R&B or the whatever they want on to match that vibe.
Yeah,
I feel like adding music really takes away from the awkwardness as a whole. Purely because it's filling in the gap, and it means that me and Tim, we love to talk. Like, I know I can talk underwater, right? But it takes out the need for us to feel that, I guess, awkward silence, so to speak, and that void of, like, nothingness. And it fills that gap. It's a little bit like elevator music, but it just gives you something to think about.
Yeah, like, it creates an environment, right?
Creates
and you have, like,
atmosphere.
it creates atmosphere. So, like, as a photographer, as a videographer, like, you have control, like, of that moment. Like, and you can direct, you know, like, the type of energy, like, within that moment as well. And it's not to, like, take away from the couple. Like, for me, it's important that you match the energy at that right time. And, like, I know, Matt, you, like, really touched on it, like, depending on, like, what type of, like, time in the day would be depending on what type of playlist you play, right? And, like, for me, I have this information prior to, right? Like, I ask questions, like, to my couples about, what's your favorite artist? You know, like, what are your favorite genres? And just to get like a good idea of, you know, what they like and what they don't like. And it's not specific just for the like wedding film, but it also helps to understand like the things that they like and don't like. So I've got a bunch of like different playlists, and like during the start of portraits, like viral hits, right? Like we go pretty well with that one. But like when it comes time to like really like getting into a bit of a moment and try and like build in some intimacy and build in some connection, like this is where your music choice becomes, it should be a lot more selective, right? And it should be a lot more.
You're not going to put like deep house. You're not going to put like some deep house on or something in the middle of them trying to get like a little bit more intimate with each other. Like it definitely happens where you click next and you're like, oh, wrong song. And it's a
not
bit
ABBA
awkward.
again.
But yeah, look, I think music is a major contributing factor to portrait sessions. Like I shot a maternity session yesterday and I put some tunes on, just some chilled vibes. It was great. I loved it. And the couple were loving it too.
Baby Shark.
Bit of Baby Shark, bit of Wiggles. It was good. All for it.
Mate,
but yeah,
I can't, off topic, but I can't wait for you to reach that stage. Hey, like it was a good 2.5 years of just Wiggles and Coco Melon like non-stop on the TV.
I'm prepping. I'm keen for like a bit of Bluey in my life too. Anyway, yeah. So I feel like that's like, yeah. So I guess when it comes to the portrait session, like bringing the good vibes and getting rid of those awkward moments, that's one. Another moment that I feel like everybody is nervous about, and I know that you feel the same way, Tim, and you probably get the same, I guess, questions. And when you get inquiries, it's like, oh, like we really don't like to be posed. Like, I don't know. It's such a big topic, and like I feel like the posing scenario is. I'm going to say something like a little bit of a truth bomb. I feel like everyone at some stage of the wedding day will need to be posed, and that goes against everything that I want to say and do, I would say, but it still naturally happens because the light looks really good in this certain position, or because you have to do. Like we want you to do something in this certain position. So there's still some
I think
of pose, but it's not posed in the way that you feel like you've been posed on the TV watching some movie or something.
Yeah, like for me, right? Like when someone says pose, and I think like in a general like population, right? When you look at the worm, when you look at the word pose, like you're thinking of it as a stiff, like soldier-like statue, right? Like stay in this position and don't move. Like, and that's a videographer's worst nightmare. Like, and this is why, like, typically I would say like prompts over poses, right? Like because prompts is giving some direction, right?
Yes.
Like, and yes, it's like moves into the realm of like pose, but oh, excuse me, coughing up a lung there. But like I've worked with so many different photographers, right? And worked with some high ends like New York, LA, like editorial photographers. That's like a very like treat the couple like an actor, right? Like just stay in this position, don't move. And like I worked with on the other end of the spectrum, like photographers like you that have a really like lax style about like how you do things, and like yes, you put them in a pose, but it's not treating them like a soldier, right? Like you're giving them direction. So I think it's more on the prompt side than the pose side. Yeah, like do you know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah. And I feel like, as I said, it's a massive topic. It's something that there's a misconception around posing versus, because no one knows what the opposite to pose is, really. Do you know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, candid. It's like, well, yeah, that's fine.
I have to hear the word candid. Yeah. The candid king. I love it.
I love it. I love it.
I try and be the candid king.
100%. And we all do. And I feel like that's just a natural progression as to where photography is kind of going these days. Most people don't want to be forced to do something in a certain way, right? And so that's why if we're including prompts, there's still some sort of direction there. That's probably the more like the word is direction over posed. What I was talking about before, it's like we're going to give you direction because you probably have no idea what to do. But then it's a prompt-based system, not a posed-based system.
Yeah. Like, so for you though, like, do you, like, for every wedding and every couple, like, would you scusa misa. Do you treat every wedding the same? Like you say, like the same prompts or poses, or like do you like is it specific to each couple? Like you try and understand like what do you think would work for them?
I have a few icebreakers, I would say, that I would typically use with every couple, and they're very baseline, and I see the way that they interact with each other. I see the way that they, like, I guess how they, like, just are generally with each other. If they're, like, touchy-feely, if they're, like, a little bit reserved, if they're, you know, like, just kind of their personality and how, I guess, standoffish they are, if that makes sense. And then from there, we really work out what we need to do, if we need to create more movement, if we need to create less movement, if we need to, you know, change up everything we're doing, you know, whatever that looks like. I feel like that's the difference.
Yeah, love it. Because I think it's, as a vendor, it's a dangerous game if you rock up to a wedding and you're like, oh yeah, sweet, I've got my 5 poses, I've got my 5 prompts that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that every time. You know, like,
because
you foreheads to touching. I'm going to get the couple to run at the camera. Like, I'm going to get the couple to twirl. I'm going to get the couple to dance. I'm going to get the couple to hold hands and look away and look apart and look away. You know, the Hello May special. I think as a vendor, like that's not serving your couples the right way.
It's not, but on the flip side, and this is maybe a little like argument that we're going to have, which is fine. I love arguing, like a little good conversation. But
fight me, bro.
But I would say, like, most people that are booking you as a vendor see what you do week in and week out, and that's the style that they really like. And so it becomes, I've had this like discussion in my brain for a long time of like, oh, I'd love to change it up. But then at the same time, it's like, if I change it up and I do stuff that is like wildly different to what I normally do, it's doing a disservice maybe to some of my couples who have booked me for a reason. And I'm not saying like, you know, like I don't do the same poses all the time or, you know, prompts or the same whatever it is. I just know that if I stick to a few things that I know gets me consistency and knows that I will get the shot that I really need from like my couples, from there, then we can like go wild and we can expand and we can try something different. But there's for me personally, there's always an aspect of every wedding that I would do some sort of like control of like the way that I should capture moments.
Yeah, for sure. Like, for sure. And like, that's, like, I get that, especially from a photo side as well. Like, these are the types of photos that couples are going to hang up on their wall, and they're the ones that you'll need, and that's what they're paying you for.
I always do that one shot where I make them look down the camera, and I call it the grandparent shot. And it's like, this is the photo that you will show one day when you have grandkids or whatever. I feel like that's, you know, like that's one shot that I really do encourage opposed position. I guess, like, I'm not trying to throw myself under the bus here, and like I said from the start, like, I feel like everyone has some sort of aspect of pose. There's no such thing as no posing whatsoever, especially in the like Australian wedding scene. Like, from what I've seen, there is definitely always prompts, tips, hints, and everybody's looking to do something a little bit different, and I'm all for that as well. But by doing these things and us having our processes, it definitely helps make the vibe not so awkward. I don't know about you, Tim, but like, if you're at a wedding and you're feeling a little bit awkward, which for us it's pretty hard to feel awkward, but if you are, like, it probably means that stuff's really awkward, and I know that we would do whatever we can to change that as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So we bring out the goodie bag, you know, bring out the tricks to really elevate, you know, the experience, right? Really, and change the atmosphere as best as that we could. Could be a million different reasons, but yeah, I suppose the point we're trying to make is that we try and be specific to each couple to make sure that we can bring the best experience for them, and whatever that may look like, but making sure that we know the couple firsthand.
100%. And that's why we're doing like our questionnaires. That's why we're trying, like, you know, we make a point of trying to meet with every single couple prior, whether it, like, you know, usually it's just a Zoom meeting, but we like sit down, have a quick chat, find out what the vibe is for the day. Like, we make notes on that. Like, we really try and invest in every single couple and know that every single couple has a need and a want from their day. And we really understand that. And if we're understanding what our couple want from day one, we're really going to nail these portrait sessions. You know, we're really going to encourage the not so awkward vibes. We're really going to say goodbye to these awkward moments that people tend to have. And I feel like, you know,
sure.
like we at the end of like a lot of weddings, we go, wow, that was amazing. And we talk about why it was amazing. And that's a little bit of us debriefing about, you know, like what can we do better next time? What do we need to work on? You know, we're always trying to level up our experience for our couples. And if we're always leveling up our experience for our couples, the next couple is only going to benefit from what's happened last time. So we're learning each time we're shooting, you know, like I've shot a bazillion weddings, like even though I shot like 100 and something weddings last year, like I'm still learning stuff. I learned more stuff on the weekend, you know, by shooting these guys. And that is like why I love weddings so much still. Because every wedding is different, every couple is different. The way that we shoot, the light, everything is different every wedding.
We did get a bit creative on the weekend, and
We did.
I felt
We
like
changed it up.
that really brought some like creative juices back into it. Like, because
Yeah.
I feel like I was that creatively like fulfilled that I went back home, like, you know, and do my usual process of backing up. But I actually started like editing them like a little video as well, because I'm like,
sneaky
this is
peek.
actually sick. Yeah, the old sneaky peek. If you haven't seen that, go check it out on my Instagram. I need more views on it.
Love me. But no, 100%. I agree. Like, we definitely did some different things, you know. A few, like, spontaneous, like, a lot more spontaneous moments maybe over the weekend, which, like, I feel like we're always trying to do, but, like, these got like I feel like just the way that it ran on the weekend, there was a lot of time, a lot more time than typically we would have.
But that it comes down to the
how it
couple
happened.
as well. Like those
Came down
guys
to
were just like
speeches.
they were just so chill. Yeah, speeches like didn't go for very long at all.
Yeah.
How about the groom? He's like, oh, I've got to go practice my speech. And like, mate, it's a 30-second speech.
Yeah. But look, public speaking is hard, all right? The only reason I can even do this podcast is because there's no one really listening until it goes live.
Yeah. Well, we had the our first probably like 3 or 4 episodes were just an absolute write-off.
Yeah. Well, look, we've gotten a little bit more.
Probably the first 20, to be honest.
What would
Probably
you
the first
say?
40.
We're still crap. What would you say? Going back to like, you know, I feel like this whole podcast has been about last weekend, which is great. I'm all for it. But what would you say the one thing that you felt like was epic, or that like really helped them be less awkward?
The one thing that probably helped them be less awkward, I think, was them having like a strong like team around them that just completely understood the mission. So like it was a very strong like vendor team, like no doubt about it, and that's not the same for like every wedding. But from a photo like and video perspective, like we were in constant communication with the couple. But they were also very like relaxed as well, and they were happy for us to like make decisions. But we gave them that level of like, experience for them to be able to trust us to be like, okay, like we're gonna do this, because it's gonna be better for you. Which then in turn it just gave us more creative freedom, right? Like like we mentioned before, like we kind of like hacked up the run sheet with a couple of different things. You know, like we went off-site like earlier on and did like portraits of the bridal party like after we got back.
We never do that,
you know. Like we never do that. You know, we did some pretty cool like sunset stuff and some pretty cool like night stuff. I wouldn't say it's a one thing. I think it's an accumulation of like the whole process, and it just cements like why we're on the right track with what we do. Like, at least for me.
I feel like we were pretty efficient too on the weekend in terms of like the portrait sessions and the like bridal party sessions and stuff like that, which I thought was good. My favorite thing though from the weekend, which I haven't done, like I've done a few of these like style entrances before, but this one, like I don't know, these guys on the weekend, their like entrance into the reception was wild. If you want to create, like, this is my probably golden nugget for the day. We haven't done a golden nugget yet, and I know we're wrapping it up. So this is my golden nugget. Think about the way that you, as a couple, are going to enter the reception. And what I'm saying with that is, like, when you enter the reception, like, really think about how you enter it. Like, what vibes are you going to do? What way are you going to enter it? Like, how are you going to bring the vibe on that entrance? Because if you're walking in and just being like, hey, what's up, what's going on, you know, like, and just cruising on in, not that interested, like, that's the vibe you're encouraging the rest of your guests to kind of follow. Where if you're coming in and you're like singing, dancing, screaming, acting like an absolute, I don't know,
Grandma's
idiot.
on the tables.
Grandma on the table. Oh my goodness. But yeah, like if people are just, like if you're having a good time and you're like running down the aisle or you're like throwing your hands in the air and having the best time, it's going to really like, I feel like, level up your reception experience. And if you're bringing those vibes, people are following you pretty damn quickly. For example, on the weekend, this couple, they like didn't really tell us a whole lot until about 3 seconds before they entered, but they got like giant confetti poppers, and like all the bridal party had them, and they were like, probably more cannons, weren't they? There was heaps of confetti going on.
Huge.
Yeah, and they came running on in, and they were dancing for a little bit, and then like their bridal party made an aisle, and they like ran through it and had a kiss, and as they ran through and had a kiss, like confetti was popping everywhere. It was pretty lit. I was all about it, and everyone was just like, whoa, and like the banging from the confetti cannons were going off, and everyone was so like super excited. So I feel like if you're doing, like if you really want to instill a good time for your reception, like you need to create that vibe. Like that's the only way that your reception is going to be amazing, is if you're creating the vibe.
Let me ask you a question, right? Like, was there something like during that day, during that wedding, that you did differently? Like, it could have been, perhaps maybe a direction that you, or a prompt that you gave, which you don't normally do, or perhaps it's something that you changed in the way that you shoot. Like, was there something that different that you did on the weekend?
Not overly. I feel like I let, especially to start with the portraits, like they were kind of keen to have a drink, and so I was just like, yeah, cool. Like we just had a chat, and we're like, yeah, let's let him go and just have a bit of a drink, and it kind of for the groom, it was a bit of a like safety blanket. He could hold on to it and had something to do with one of his hands, and it just kind of like helped him. Especially him, like just relax a little bit, and just be himself and feel like he can have a drink and go for a walk with his beer in his hand and be happy with it. And we just like encourage them to do some movements to start off with. I didn't probably do the prompts I normally do on the weekend, to be honest, because I kind of like we started that and then that was kind of it for the day. And we was kind of moving around and having a good time, and it was rad. I don't know, there wasn't like anything major. It was just it seemed to flow really well on the weekend.
Yeah. Well, I suppose for me, like I felt like I got a lot of like really like good content, and I just wanted to like mix it up a little bit. So I actually shot half the portraits in like manual focus, and I was on purposely like focus pulling, and when I was sorry.
Changing it up in the world.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll stop shooting in auto. But and it just, I feel like it just brought like a really nice kind of vibe to my editing, and especially with my type of editing style as well. Like, even though my style does like migrate and change like over the seasons and stuff, but like the film that I edited, it just worked well like as a transition into something else. And I really enjoyed that. It might be something I do a bit more often.
Look at us, always evolving, always changing, always trying to do better. So,
mate, this has been an absolute monster podcast. This has probably been our longest, so we should probably wrap it up. But
we're getting excited.
Yeah, I know. This is what I mean. Like, we hate to talk, obviously.
I don't even know. Hopefully, we've nailed the how to say goodbye to these awkward moments for you guys, because there is a lot out there, and there is a lot to a wedding, obviously, as you all know. And hopefully, today we've touched on it. I'm sure we will continue to touch on it, because realistically, the whole reason why we started this podcast was we really wanted to make sure that your wedding was epic. But the way for your wedding to be epic is that you say goodbye to these awkward moments. And so our whole podcast and philosophy realistically is helping you and encouraging you to have the best day possible. Hopefully this episode has helped touch on that a little bit more. Hopefully make some sense out of it.
Definitely.
Definitely. It's been a good time, and we always love jumping on here, having a chat, and debriefing a little bit as well over what happened over the weekend. I kind of like that. That amazing. Was fun.
Should we do this every one of our like weddings? We do like debrief this wedding. It'll probably be like
just an extra episode. Anyway,
extra. But yeah, look, let's wrap it up there. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for listening. We are feeling a little bit unloved at the moment. We only have one review on Apple Podcasts.
Written review. We have some like stars, but not written.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
write something
So-
nice about Tim.
If you are loving what you are hearing, please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. Even if you want to say you absolute pelicans are great or not so great. Completely up to you. But yeah, if you're loving what you're hearing, we would really appreciate a review. Just let us know what you think. You know, perhaps you may have some ideas or maybe... Perhaps you'd like to jump on the podcast as a guest. We would love to hear from you. We're always about finding those people that are doing things a little bit differently and stepping up, their game in the wedding industry. So thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.